Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on another episode of Autistic Pod, where we're sitting on the ground here. Maybe it won't have video, but we can see the progress. We can see I'm here because I feel like I want to record. And so instead of rewatching Seinfeld, where I received a thing, a note to write down, I wanted to do my podcast. I was actually scheduled to do a podcast with somebody, but I haven't been able to get in touch with them. I also forgot when I came on their podcast, so I don't know if they're meaning to do it, but it really doesn't matter. It would be funny if they didn't mean to do it. It's I guess the way they roll if they meant to do it. I don't think they did. But anyway, doesn't matter because I want to do a podcast. I just got done recording a 2.5 hour guest on somebody else's podcast, Nigel. I'm not sure about the name of his podcast, but I will get that and put it in the comments. He does that, I can do it. So mention Nigel's podcast, which is oh, you know what? I do have the name of it. It's something with Nige. Hang on just one second. Yeah, it's Transformational Alchemy. Yep, it's fun chats with Nige, as he says it. But transformational alchemy, and we had a wonderful 2.5 hour conversation on his podcast where we talked mostly about my rules, just the 9 rules in that amount of time. Because he would just ask questions, we would go off on tangents, and I loved it, and he seemed to be enjoying it as well. So anyway, now that I can get back to my selfish needs, I want to talk about the Mighty Nein. I said that I was going to do this podcast, and I'm doing this podcast. So if you haven't seen the Mighty Nein and you want to watch it, first off, it's a show on Amazon Prime that is animated D&D. That's the best way to explain it. The characters are deep. It's set in fantasy environments. If you know D&D, you can see the spells and acts that they're taking. It's fun. It doesn't, you don't see them roll, obviously, and the battles are much more, not like every 6 seconds, but you understand. So if you know D&D, I'd be surprised if you haven't heard of Critical Role, or they're the ones that do this. So you probably are aware of it already. So you might not even care. So if you do want to watch it, skip this part. So for those of you who haven't watched it or have watched it and don't care, uh, no, that's wrong. For those of you who have watched it and will understand what I'm talking about, or those who haven't watched it and don't care, there we go. I'm going to go through my notes. So the first note I made when I was watching episode 5, so if you're not going to watch it, let me give you a brief overview. There's a big important relic. It gets stolen. There's an evil man. He really hasn't come into play. The key thing is that there are 6, I believe, heroes, maybe 7. I know they're called the Mighty Nein because it's spelled Nein. It's a play on words. So nine as in no in German, because they speak different languages with different races and different areas and things. So et cetera, et cetera. Should be pretty obvious. So by chance, these people all get put together. They're all on the same mission, but they're all different people. They're all completely from different walks of life. They're all different. Some of them want to do it for good. Some of them have bad intentions. Some of them, are kind of in between. But everybody is working towards this goal and has found this connection. And they're stronger together. They couldn't do what they need to do alone. They need help with their goal. So that's where we are. So what we're seeing in the beginning of this episode 5, is the history of this guy that we met in a gutter who was getting beat up by kids, and he pretended he was going to cast a spell on them by smearing shit on his face. And he's obviously just a guy who's down on his luck, a bum. He meets what looks like a little girl to other people somehow, but is actually a female goblin, a little goblin. And they, if you haven't watched it, you really don't care. They become friends. So they're hanging out, and then they run into the other crews, and the crew, everybody meets and is like, oh, I can't stand this person, but they need to come along and they can help and blah, blah, blah. Everybody has their own goals, but everybody's following in the same direction. So we're exploring this gentleman's past. So what I said was the new Mighty Nein episode in 5 minutes has already established income inequality, power versus poor and capable, pretending to be nice to hurt others, the danger of putting your faith in others, and why it's so easy to abandon, and animals knowing people better than people, hiding malice and ill intent behind friendliness. So if you've watched the episode, you can see it, but did you pick up on all that? That's how I see it. That's what I view. That's what I enjoy. Now, does this mean you have to watch it this way? No. But you can go back and see these things and learn things about society. You can learn things about how you choose to interact with people. You don't want to be one of these people that's fooling people and and convincing them that they are soldiers in your war, and then just sacrifice them like pawns. That's not who people are. That's not what we are. That's not who anybody is. Nobody is a pawn. Everybody's here for a reason. Okay? We exist, and so we get a chance. We get a chance to do with what we have the best way we can do it. And that's what I've said on this podcast multiple times, and that's the goal behind this podcast, is that everybody doesn't realize that. You have your brain. Your brain has limits, but your brain is never going to meet its limits. You can always grow your brain, teach it. One of the things I saw recently, this was a really great post from one of the people that I follow. She said, "You're not stuck. You're running old code. Your reactions installed. Your shutdowns learned. Your patterns programs. Rewrite the code and your entire reality recalibrates." That's really smart. That's a great way to look at neuroscience. That explains neuroscience in a way that is more approachable. Yet you don't have to worry about neural pathways and this and that and everything. That explains it. Your code is embedded in you, and you've got to pull every 1 and 0 out of there before you can write new code. And for any of those coders out there, anybody who understands coding, once you take one thing out of a code, it doesn't work anymore. Does that make sense? I don't know where to go with that, but it's true. And so this is part of that. And so when you first start trying to repair yourself, it's not going to work. Nothing's going to work. It's going to feel wrong. But what you've done is you've been manipulated by society. Now I'm going to read one of my posts that I posted based on this, and then I will get right back to the case in point with Mighty Nein. This is the podcast. If you haven't seen me by now, I'm done explaining that. Alrighty. Anyway, I think is this it? Yeah, I'll just read this one. I don't remember if this is the one I wanted, but the amount of information and intelligence in the world is staggering. Talk to people, please. Don't let your silly biases and traumas keep you from finding people that can improve your human experience. We all have strengths and weaknesses, and when you meet someone who has strength where you're weak, they can inadvertently change the way you approach that weakness. And I'm adding this, if you can catch it, if you can make the computation, you can say, hey, look, this person is really blank, where I am not. This person's really affable, or this person, is there anything I can learn from this person? Or are there any things that they understand in particular? Like I had a recent podcast where she explained to me a communication process that I'm going to try to get in touch with more and use because it's more approachable than ADHD banter. But I have to know where I'm going first, and I have to be able to remember why I got there. But it's pretty easy with that. So, and then communication, honest, real, unafraid communication is the way to solve your life's problems. If you don't agree, debate me. Come on the podcast and I will prove you wrong. Easy. I promise you. I promise you, if you have the guts to come on and be honest and face me as a podcast host, as a guy sitting on his floor who wants to talk to people, who thinks that he's got good things to say, and you think I'm full of shit, bring it on. Because I might not be able to say what I need to right now to convince you, but if I know who you are, if I know how you communicate, if I can see your weaknesses and strengths, I will point out your strengths, I will point out your weaknesses, and we can have fun. And I look forward to all of my guests in the future because that is going to be the goal. And I hope that my guests are okay with that. And I think that's going to scare away a lot of guests. But I think the guests that come on, every guest that has come on my podcast is left feeling better. And I really didn't have too much, I brought on people that already just agreed with everything I said. So that's why I want to start talking with people and really pointing out any questions or, inconsistencies that we have. All right. Then I'm going to read one more here real quick. I wrote this today about autism, and I really like this. I said, autism, ADHD, and nearly every other neurodivergent experience is like living in a minefield. Your entire life with no map. I said laugh. Your entire life with no map, see? But it's your entire life with no map. That's why overwokeness and people taking offense to an innocent comment is something I am so against. If we have to venture out of our comfort zone, neurodivergence, autistics, ADHDs, we are so used to it fucking exploding on us that we just stay stationary. And being worried about offending someone by saying what's really on your mind keeps you stuck in the minefield. You're so scared to move that you shut down. And that is an apt description of neurodivergency, my neurodivergency that I felt and that I see people navigating. Not about wokeness, but you can see how it combines. When you're so worried about saying the wrong thing to people, now we're told we can't say these certain words because then this will offend this person and then you look like a certain person. So now I'm like, oh, I can't say that word. How else can I say it? Oh, what was I saying again? Oh, well, I forget. I guess I'm not important anymore. That's the point. That is what I've been trying to say about the importance of allowing people to be able to verbalize their thoughts. Even on a most recent podcast where a person was trying to say that, Joe Rogan shouldn't be allowed to let some people talk. And I saw an interview with Jon Stewart, who is a voice I incredibly admire, and he had a great take on it, as he always does. He says, I have no problem with Joe Rogan. He says Joe Rogan is a comedian who got in on podcasting early and has thrived, and he has given people a platform to be able to say, here is an unfiltered opinion, whether you like it or not, and you get to choose what you like. And I do like things about that. I do plan, if I bring on anybody who I disagree with, I'm going to tell you that. I'm not going to say, oh, that's interesting. I'm not sure, but I'll say, wait a minute, you said this. What about this, this, and this? Perfect example. I've said it before. I've said it to many people. I believe I've said it on the podcast. If you're a racist person, if you legitimately believe, if you go to meetings and you say black people and Jews are the problem, you can come on my podcast and I will say, I'm introducing you as this. This is why we're on the podcast. I want to have a conversation with you. Explain to me your ideology. And then I'll wait. And then once he gets into a point, I will say, okay, I have a question there. And then he might stop or he might not. Or, I say he because it's the majority of he, but it could be she as well. I want to be equal opportunity. So now I'm already losing my train of thought because I'm focusing on the gender. So I think hang on. I could do that. Yeah, somebody's ready. Okay, yeah. So the first question would be, how many of these people, how many Jewish people have you known in your life? How many have you befriended and like been stabbed in the back by or had issues with? Oh, none? Okay, so then let me say this. You're not an expert in this. So now we can talk about something else because your knowledge on this subject is none. If you don't experience it firsthand, you're simply trusting another person's interpretation. And as we've learned on this podcast, everybody communicates and absorbs information differently. Look how many people say that there's a verse that says, "Oh yeah, gay is bad because of the Bible." But most scholars say they didn't mean it that way. But you can twist it that way when you want it to be done. And so that's the point. So now that was a fun tangent. Now we can go back to Mighty Nein. So I said, in my world with my rules, it would be so much harder for them to hide and so much easier and safer to be open. So I'm not sure who I was referring to there. So much harder. Oh, I think, yeah, the dishonest people. Yes, the duplicitous ones. The ones who pretend to be nice to people, but then stab people in the back so hard that nobody believes them because they're so nice, and then they just move on and stab the next person in the back. If those people were recognized as rule fours, ignorant, selfish, violent, then they wouldn't be able to succeed only with other ignorant, selfish, violent people. And that's how empires are formed. There's that. Never thought that before, but it's true. There's definitely something there. An empire is full of violent, ignorant, selfish people. And to talk about what I'm really excited about, I have a podcast scheduled for tomorrow on Sunday because I'm recording this on a Saturday. I probably released it on a Monday or something, but I might even release it today. But he'll be coming on Sunday. He's written. I just met him, and he sent me a rough draft of his new book. Oh my God, it's all about the cycles of life, and most people won't enjoy it. But if you like reading nonfiction and getting important information about our lives and about how societies work and how they run and why they fail, he has got this nailed down to a science. I cannot give it any I can't do it any justice because he makes it incontrovertible. He shows exactly what happens. He shows who is responsible. He shows in all of these different situations. And it is such valuable information that I plan on digesting greatly once I've spoken with him, but I don't want to overload myself. So I am beyond excited for that episode tomorrow. I think that just getting his voice out there is the best thing that I've done so far, him and Elizabeth Halligan. Yeah, I won't say much in that episode. My rules won't matter. I don't want to talk about my rules unless it's something he comes up with, and then I could just say, see, that's why I have my rule. Continue. That's all I'm going to try to do. We'll see. But I'm so excited for that episode. But the point was, the reason that I veered off onto that ADHD tangent was that, in my world with the rules, you could find these people. They wouldn't be able to hide. They wouldn't be able to be these awful manipulative people and have no repercussions because people would recognize them as violent, ignorant, and selfish. Or maybe we can figure out how to tell they're lying. Maybe we can start hacking. Maybe we can come up with questions to ask people to see if they're being honest until they crack that. But I mean, there's so many people out there walking around that just want to pretend they're oh, well, that's nice to know. It was still recording, and when I pushed stop, or when I came back, it was still recording, but my muscle memory was like, "Yep, push record," and then it was stopped. So I edited that. But yeah, so that's what happens is you get taken off your game. I was preaching about like empires, and then I went into that. So we'll just go back to I was just talking about my rules. Oh, I remember. I was saying maybe we can come up with questions to ask people to like slyly think. I'm just trying to think of concepts because this is how things have been explained to me that's helped like that the explanation of how a communication works. Maybe we can create something like that to determine if somebody's being honest and truthful and actually saying that, because I would be good at that now. I'm a very good lie detector now. I can I've been used in the past, but it's because I knew they were bad and then they convinced me they were good, and that's a first lesson right there. If you ever have a bad feeling about somebody, not just oh, I don't know who this person is, or that kind of came off weird, but like really there's something that doesn't fit about this person, and then you start to like them, that's a key factor, I think. Anyway, and then it gets all fun, funny, action packed. After it introduces all this stuff, it shows the little poor farm boy getting brought in. I'm gonna assume most people have watched it by now, and if you haven't, that's what happens. Then I think that's later. So, and then I said the reason that, and no, actually we do. We see him we see him blowing stuff up and killing people, and he goes from this innocent young farm boy, this nice guy, to just killing his family ultimately. They say his family is traitorous, and so they make him kill his own family. And still that's not enough. Still they keep pushing. And so what I said was he hid from his truth, which caused all his issues. Because if he would have stayed true to himself when he was the nice farm boy, if he wouldn't have been perverted by the vizier, we'll call him, I don't know his name, but by the guy who is running the magic and is in charge. You know who I'm talking about if you've watched the show. If you don't, you can picture him. Top hat, robe, looks evil. The Yeah, if you don't allow that to poison your own DNA, then you're still you're still you. You can absorb information, hear it, and even try to believe it, but you have to have your core concepts. That's interesting. Anyway, maybe that's something we can talk about sometime. I could lay out the core concepts if I needed to, but I just need to ponder about it for a little bit. But all I need is like I've said, and you know what? Yeah, I'll finish the podcast because I need to go on. But what I really want is some comments. I want people to say, "Hey, I watched this. This is how I felt. That this is a question that I have, et cetera, et cetera." Because I can I just don't have any focus. Give me a focus. Do we only want to talk about neurodivergency? I can bring on 10 experts about neurodivergency, and I can talk from the position of my self-diagnosed. I can bring on Daniel Moore, who is an unbelievable source of information. I mean, let's talk about what we want to talk about. I like talking about TV shows, but I don't need to. But I like showing the inherent value in it. We can learn a lot of emotions from TV shows. So I'm feeling, very, very, I just get turned around. It's my ADHD, but I'm feeling like I'm getting better at verbalizing my intent. And so what I hope is that we can, just build something. Not because I want to be famous, because I like talking to people and because I want to make other people famous. That's the truth. I want to make Elizabeth Halligan famous. I want to make Nigel famous. I want to make the gentleman whose name I don't even know on Sunday famous. I want to hawk his book. I want to be out there. I want to be preaching. I want to write a forward to it if I'm anybody, because I want these ideas. That's why I said in that post on Threads, the amount of information and intelligence out there, I haven't run into one person who I was like, hey, I want you on my podcast, that didn't come on my podcast and didn't just and didn't, enjoy the experience, and most importantly, didn't live by the rules already. Because and that's not what I wanted to say. I kind of lost my train of thought. But I'm just saying that these people, all these people that I've connected with, have helped me. They've given me new information that I didn't know to ask. That's the problem. That's the problem with, maybe with just neurodivergency, but maybe with everything. People always say, what's the problem? We don't fucking know, okay? You don't know what's the problem, but I feel like I found it, and it's the masking. That's what was the problem for me. And that's what's the problem for a lot of people, for the trauma, for the ones that have been through shit. It's that bullshit mask that you force yourself to wear, so then you just don't like yourself because you'd rather be the mask because you're scared or frustrated or whatever, with, yourself. And so you don't put yourself out there. You won't be yourself. And then it just slowly eats away at you and eats away at you and eats away at you. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm speaking from experience. Have you heard any of my poems? All these poems I wrote are from that experience. And this is why I started this podcast. This is why I wanted to do a podcast about Mighty Nein, because I can't get to this place without starting to talk about something. But once I get talking, I can see emotions, I can talk about these things, and I can help people. Give me a chance for somebody to come on who is struggling with, knowing themselves, who is struggling with being afraid of society, who is struggling with anything. I'll talk to an agoraphobic. I probably won't do anything on that deep level, but maybe just a little bit of empathy and being able to verbalize your thoughts will help, you know? That's what I'm talking about. It's the communication, okay? If this is my last podcast, this is my message. People need to talk to each other. My podcast is the example of what can happen when you're in touch with your emotions, when you're trying to grow as a person, and you can see yourself actually grow for the first time in your entire life. You can say, "Ooh, I can make myself really strong and capable with this if I focus on myself." Or you can say, I want to give this to the world because I'm autistic and I have a high sense of justice. And I feel like if the world had the opportunity to feel this way, they would feel like I was justified. And that's that. And that might not mean something to a lot of people, but it meant a hell of a lot to me. That's what I want from people from my podcast, is for you to just have conversation, open yourself up. I think I said it this morning somewhere. I think I said it last night, or maybe on the podcast this morning that I recorded. I can never remember. I said, oh, come on, I can get back to that. That was the whole point. Yeah, I said that we should set aside an hour or two a week just to communicate with a loved one. Not with a therapist. You don't have to pay somebody $200 an hour, $400 an hour, whatever the insurance bills, and pay for medication. Now, some people, medication, I'm not telling you to get off medication. I'm not a doctor. You should stay on medication that you've been prescribed, but you can try this too. Okay? And all it is just talk with people. Open up. Find the person you trust most in the world. If you haven't found one, reach out to me. I'll do the next podcast with you. I'll do it the day you send me the letter if you're down for it. I will make the time because I want these stories out there. I want people to be heard, and I don't want anybody to find themselves drunk in a hotel bathtub on December 14th or whenever it was, ready to throw themselves out of a window, because I've been there. I was that close. And I'm never going back. And I have completely flipped the script. And the way I did it was I realized my brain was an enemy at the time. Okay? You need to ask yourself that, because most people, I'm telling you, your brain is an enemy sometimes. Trauma is what that means. The reason that I unconsciously masked for 20 plus years is because I told myself that I was supposed to mask. This is why I wrote these poems. Okay, I'll read one right now because it's relevant. I'm just creating a thing here. Maybe I've read it before, but I'm going to read it again. My neurodivergent experience: chaos, questions, confusion, passion. Feel a purpose burn inside you, yet you can't think clear enough to even name it. Constant fights, inside and out, regardless of intent or approach. I could do a podcast on every one of these lines. Born in a world that despises truth, yet be so full of it you fear you'll burst. Frustration, fear, judgment. So I masked. My brain's best attempt at protection from despair. I feel numb, empty, alone. Every interaction is poisoned as I worry, don't be yourself. People don't like you. Hate grows. I've felt hate, my friends. I've been hateful. I used to hate people. I used to judge people. I used to think I was better than everybody because I have above average intellect. Fine. I am not ashamed to say that anymore. I have a decent intellect. That's why I can present things in ways that people don't see. Getting back to my poem. Hate grows. See, it's still there, but I've learned to deal with it in a great way. I don't need the poem anymore. I'm on another roll because I've been in the hate seat. That's why I wrote the other poem where it says I'll get online and make fun of people and own them. And I did that for years and years. And I thought that I was doing good. I wasn't a troll, but I would just go on when somebody would say something that didn't make any sense. I'd be like, "Hey, dum dum, have you ever heard of this, and this? Ha ha ha, you're stupid." And then he'd be like, "Oh, you're gay." I was like, "Oh, that's a great response," you know? Like I would just tap dance all over him. He would have no chance. And then when they just like laughy clown emojis, I'm okay, you're done. You know, they're done with it. Now, when I have interactions with those people, it leaves with a mutual respect. I'll give a perfect example. I posted, it was something political. I don't even remember what it was. Somebody, and I talked about this on podcast with somebody or on somebody else's podcast, but somebody, it was political. And somebody wrote on, they went to my page and they said, well, as much as you talk about feelings, you know, I don't think I would listen to you. And I was like, you know, I'm so sorry you're afraid of your feelings. That's too bad. I wish that you were more in touch with that because there's nothing to be afraid of. And he commented back. He said, I'm not afraid of my feelings, but when people make everything about feelings or something like that, something that obviously was not related to my content or my podcast. And then I said, if that's what you think, you haven't looked at my information very far. And he said, fair enough. Have a good day. That would have gone with 80% of the population, you know, who's online, which is a small percentage already, but 80% of the population who sees something that they totally disagree with, they attack, they jump. That's the hate. That's all that trauma that you're keeping inside. That's everything that you can work out with me. If you just come on. And again, I'm not talking, and this probably will never happen. Nobody will ever see this podcast, and I'll forget this idea. But then I'll just have a new one. But if people wanted to do this, you can come on. And as I've said, I don't want people to be reliving their trauma. I don't want you to say, I was abused, or I was this, or I was that. I just want you to talk about your feelings and what it makes you feel like. I just want you to say, when I shut down as a neurodivergent, this is the best way to describe it. I feel like there's ice picks on my scalp. I feel like et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you can so people can maybe empathize with this. That's my goal, number one. And then number two for you is actually voicing what you don't want to say, or being able to discover where we could find the things that you don't like about yourself that you don't even know. And it's not about finding the things that you don't like about yourself. It's just about saying, I want to be a better person. I have a responsibility as a human being. Just like I said in the video where I tried to show kids how important it was to grow. Now it's relevant to everybody, to my audience, not just kids. We do have a intrinsic right, a responsibility to existence. This thing is awesome. There's sex. Have you felt sex? It's really good. A lot of people have sex because it feels so good and then make a kid they don't want. Oh, look, Nick's getting emotional again and making sense. And I'm going to forget that train of thought. But that was strong. I could go back to it, but that was a good direction. Yeah, I remember. It's the fact that, existence is so great. Sex feels good. You make a baby. Oops, I got a baby now. Now we got to handle it. Oh, there comes the trauma. Some people choose to have a baby. And then what do? They buy everything for this baby. Oh my God, this baby wants for nothing. It is so absorbed and resolved, and oh my God, we're so close to them. And oh, we've got all these toys, we've got these books, we have this Mozart, everything is taken. We're so pampered and taken care of, and et cetera, et cetera. And then when we get to 5 years old, we're ripped away into school, and that shit's done. You've got to jump from being the most important thing in the world to 30 to 40 of the most important thing in the world. Let's talk about that in kids psychiatry and in trauma. That's where I was going with that. And I got back there right away because it was relevant. I'll almost lose it now, but I said what I wanted to say. That was fantastic. It's so true. This is how deep I can get, ladies and gentlemen. This has value. I'm going to keep doing this. I hope you see value too, and I hope you start communicating with me. I hope that this podcast right now that I put out, people start watching this and going, wow, this guy is fucking unlike anybody else I've ever seen. He says shit that does make sense, but it also scares me, and I'm like not wanting to agree, but there's nothing I can disagree with what he says. And there's a clip. So, I don't know, man. I'm just making a podcast here. Let's get back to the poem. No, nobody's in the poem anymore. See, I can respect that. I could go back to the poem, but yeah, maybe, but no, yeah, fuck it. Maybe there's some Okay. I guess it just pauses and then when we come back, it is recording. That's nice. All right, so let's finish the poem. I'll finish the poem because there might be one person out there that was feeling the poem, and if you were, I want you to hear the rest of the poem. So hate grows. That's what started that whole diatribe. See? That's how ADHD works. I'm trying to explain to people. I know it's a weird ride, but I feel like what I just said 5 minutes ago is really good stuff, and I want to talk to smart people about it. So, uh, that's it. So I don't feel no hate anymore because I follow my rules and because I figured some shit out, and I can help anybody who wants it. That's a fucking promise. I can't guarantee that it's going to make you, an amazing person in 8 months, happier than you've ever been, like I've been. But I can guarantee you, if you come on my podcast and we just have an absolutely honest and open conversation, then you will leave the podcast feeling better because you can ask me any question you want. I can do anything but heal pain. I can heal mental pain, but I cannot heal physical pain. But I can give you empathy, real empathy that I don't think many people can match because that's my superpower, my level, my ability to feel. Because that's why when I had my epiphany and I've become so much happier, instead of just saying, hey, my fiance hates me podcasting and my fiance is more important than my podcast, so why don't I just fucking keep learning myself and stop making fucking podcasts? Because number one, my podcast is my learning. So that's the reason. But the second thing is, I don't even know if I remember the second thing. One's enough. I, you know, I do the podcast because I truly do want to help people, and I think I have valuable information. I keep saying it because I keep meaning it. So, moving on. I don't remember where we were at there. Oh yeah, hate grows. That's what takes you on the tangents, and that's why I just buckle up. Maybe that's the new name of the podcast. Buckle up with Autistic Nick. It's not. Maybe. Okay. Hate grows. So, no one knows me or accepts me, but how can they when I mask? My cure is a slow poison that rots me away. I am lost. I don't even remember myself. Tears come even now. This is the first time I've ever read this where I don't actually tear up. I did it this morning on that guy's podcast. Is it a blessing or a curse to feel this much? But I persist. I fight. I believe. I am reborn. It was the truth all along that was my savior. I know I messed that up, but it's fine. The truth set me free. Still judged, but in a sick world, being judged and condemned only validates purpose. That's my favorite line in every poem and for every poem that I've written. Remembering that line is the secret to my happiness. Now we'll get crying again. I'm not trying to cry, but I'm just trying to say what's on my mind. And that line, see, I can get back there again and again. That's why I put it down on paper. I I'm very proud of that line, I gotta say, because I think it hits home. Still judged, but in a sick world, being judged and condemned only validates purpose. So that's what happens to neurodivergence is they grow up in this sick world that's all fucked up that neurodivergence could fix. So I don't even blame the sick world. The sick world is like our mask. There's something there. The sick world is like society's mask. I like that. That's going to go somewhere. So anyway, there we go. I don't even have to finish the poem now because well, I need the phone. But I mean, I just related all of my masks, everything that I've masked myself, how much I've felt that I have a mask on, and how much I identify with that concept of wearing a mask and having it suck your soul out and, just trick your brain and be your brain telling you the wrong thing. The sick world is society's mask. We pretend that everything is fine. We just walk around going, oh, it's okay to just grab a brown person and ask them if they're legally allowed to be in the country. That's the kind of country I want to be in. If there was a place that did that to me, I would definitely want to be in that country. How's that for an argument against ICE? I don't care who you pray to. It's that simple. See, last time it was about abortion. Now it's about ICE. Little clippy clip about that, because that is horrifying. I can't do it justice. I could if I really got into it, talked about how somebody was, put in for 70 days who was a legal citizen before they were released. They're like a chaplain in New Jersey. You can look it up. How is this able to happen in our society, people? This is the alarm bell. This is the bell that says nobody shit their pants when this happened, okay? This is what I'm talking about. Our society is broken. Let's talk about fixing it. My guest tomorrow is going to talk about fixing it logically. He's going to break down with violence and, insurrection and things of that nature included in the conversation. I am not advocating anything, but I was really impressed with what this guy said, and I believe that no option should be off the table. We could be in that point. I'm not suggesting that anybody do anything because I'm not a leader. I am just a person who is saying my thoughts into a camera and then forgetting them 30 seconds later. And I believe I already have. But I believe that was a clip. Okay, so we can go back to the Mighty Nein or we can go back to the poem because we're way past Hate Grows. I will not be able to get back there. Poem. Life on hard mode, bring it on. I like a challenge, even if the rules of the game change. Seemingly unfairly, I'm adaptable, I'm capable, I'm so much more than my weaknesses. I will not accept failure. I have the tools, I have the knowledge, I am right where I am supposed to be. Gratitude, hope, kindness, passion, instead of chaos, questions, confusion, passion. That's another one. I didn't even realize I did that until I printed it. I didn't even realize I did that cadence and I showed the change. But it's just how it is. And so that illustrates to me, see, if you tell me this, if you tell me chaos, questions, confusion, passion went to gratitude, hope, kindness, passion, I would say that's an amazing story. Congratulations. Tell me, how did you achieve that? Because that seems like really valuable information. I might not look like people want to look. I might not make the choices off the podcast that they would make. But when I'm on this podcast, there's nobody saying things that are more valuable. I'm putting that out there. The only person that shouldn't want to listen to my podcast is my fiance because she fucking hates it. But she'd be very happy if I became a successful podcaster and she never had to be involved with it. So that's that. Ball's in your court. Another attempt to go viral. Another clippy clip. All right. This is done. I'm gonna end this podcast and go to my behind the scenes puzzle piece. Yay! Thank you. Really mean it. I do. I do. I don't want to jump right in there. Anybody who's watching this who's watched me before, I know. I know that I'm just. It's. I know. But I can't be anybody but me. But I bet you're entertained, and I bet you can learn. I bet you appreciate my what I'm saying, and I think that you understand it. And I wish that we could talk more about it, and we could like dissect how you see it. I'd love that. That's my invitation to anybody who's been with me a long time. If you've watched multiple of my podcasts, even Nikki, I think I was the last person to reach out there. So if you see this, that'd be funny. But yeah, so thank you. Thank you for anybody who this isn't your first podcast. If it is your first podcast, God, guys, have we got shit in store? This is all me begging for you to listen. Okay, that's it. You could just start tomorrow. Just start listening. Okay, so I will release this today. And then just start listening tomorrow, or we'll listen to the next episode because that'll be the next direct episode, maybe. But if the worlds align, so. But yeah, that's the plan. It makes sense to me. Uh, yeah. So that was a complete thread. That was for all my people that have been here and the new people. So if the new people want something, just I'm fucking weird, dude. I bet I said some shit that you didn't really register or care about, but you're you enjoy watching me because you don't know what I'm gonna say next, and I make you think of shit you ain't never thought of before. So if you want that feeling again, come back next week. Bye, everybody.